We are thrilled to have you join us, Leader of You Summit, a multi-day event that will take you on a transformational journey through personal leadership, growth, and the power of choice. This summit brings together some incredible speakers who have all faced real-world challenges, just like the ones you may be experiencing now. But they've chosen to turn these obstacles into opportunities for lasting and positive change for not only their lives, before any lives that they come in contact with. The Leader of You is just more than just a leadership summit. It's a deep dive into personal stories of individuals who have been where you are facing the disbelief, physical hardship, and life's tough obstacles. Yes, possibility for you to change lies within choice. It's 100% possible, but it's out there for you to grasp it. So we have a wonderful speaker today I would love to introduce, and we really had some great conversations starting out in the background. And I am really excited for it because this is something I'm very curious about. I know it's impactful and it can be impactful for your life. It can transform your life. And she really has something great to share. It's my pleasure to introduce Debbi Sluys. She is an expert in personal development, leadership. Debbi specializes in helping people envision and achieve their biggest dreams through her unique approach of combining vision boards with mindset coaching. She has inspired countless individuals to break through limiting beliefs and to create lasting positive change in their lives. Debbi's passion is contagious, and her insights on personal growth and leadership are invaluable for anyone to seek a life of purpose and impact. Debbi, welcome. I am so glad to have you here today.
Thank
And we were
you. Thank
just
you so
talking about,
much.
yes. So no, we were talking about vision boards and how the importance of what that means in creation and then the ways of go about being in creation of that vision board. And I know that's one main point that you like to talk about, but I'm gonna turn you loose on what your heart wants to say about this. I know there's a lot, and I want to ask some questions too, but
Yeah, please
have
ask
the floor.
questions. I do best like I'm definitely I can do a keynote, but I'm much more fired up when I have provocations and questions, you know?
Good.
And you're not going to catch me off guard. There's no question off the table. One thing that
Mhm.
I want to let's just start off like you when I came onto the Zoom, you said vision boards. That surprised me. And I said, I love surprises. So I'm curious, why did it surprise you?
Because many people, and especially for those who want to have a successful life and gain their liberty and freedom, often leave that part out. I mean, I don't know how many businesses I've been in that I've seen a vision board. It's very rare, but it brings clarity to what you are or your entity of business is, and team collaboration into to buy into it, because leadership is all about influence. At its base core meaning is influence, and to draw people into a way of being to accomplish what is ultimately the goal to succeed in your life. And one person can't do that. It takes a team. So
Mhm.
a vision board is a great way to unite the idea and enroll yourself into it daily.
Absolutely. I love a leader that, like, I work with corporate at times, and I've worked with a group as large as 125. It was a multi-site childcare organization, and she gave them the PA day. Um, what makes it easier when I have 125, I don't know if this is only going to be auditory, but people can see I have a
Mm-hmm.
magazine. So I actually have my own vision board magazine that I created based on the thousands of clients I worked with. So I was able to
Wow.
bring that. Otherwise, it takes an awful lot of magazines and images. But what was so great about that, and I kept letting the employees know to say, your employer is so progressive. They're not just focused on the vision of the organization. They're not just focused on the goals of this organization. What this says and should say to you as an employee is that this organization cares about you. They care about you as an individual, not just that, not just a number on the payroll. You're not just a collective group of employees, but this process is about your personal vision. And the way that I offer the vision board is it's not just uh, executed towards work, it's actually all 7 areas of your life. So we include spirituality. Now, I'm a Christian,
Mhm.
so if, I love when I get to
Mhm.
speak to Christian groups and I don't, I talk about belief, but we talk about spirituality, we talk about, yes, work, but also relationships and leisure. You talked about travel. So a full component of images go on this board, which really represents us as the whole person, not just siloed, oh, I'm just this person at work. But no, we have different roles. You said you're a father, you're a
Mhm.
husband, you've been a son. I don't know if your parents are still living, but all of those
Mhm.
roles are still part of who you are and get to be
Mhm.
represented on this vision board. So yeah, I love working with employers who can really value the process of investing in their employees personally. But what does happen as well is the employees, because part of my company's name is Dare to Declare. So at the end, I have the participants declare their vision, not, oh, I hope someday this is going to happen, but rather this is. So it's like talking about future tense, but bringing it into the present, because
Mhm.
our minds can't actually tell the difference between future tense and present tense when we declare it as it is.
100%. That's right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so having it, declaring it, not only are you hearing it, but those around you are as well. And you're 95% more likely to manifest, to have your vision come to fruition with accountability. So
Mhm.
your colleagues now, your friends, those people, this new community that's been built around this vision process can support you to say, but you said that you have a desire to write a book, let's say, right? And so this opportunity is coming your way. Why do you keep sabotaging it? Why do you keep turning it down? Why do you not make it a priority? Um, and when things are tough at work, let's say you're having, something has happened and there's been an accident or something happened at work, and it's everyone's really high stress level. You're going to give that colleague so much more grace, because now you're seeing them as the human. You're seeing them as the person who
Mhm.
has these dreams versus simply your colleague that you're going to work with every day. So yeah, having it in the workplace, there's so many advantages.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing that we get backwards most of the time, and this is the way we've been taught in doctrine in schools, is doing and do to have, and do to have it to be later on in life. And that's not the right equation to be, because first you got to know who you are, what you want out of life in order to be, and to be is the start of the process. To do to have, and then you get your result. And a lot of times we find those results not manifesting the way we want. And there's a lot of belief systems that we need to look at to go back and see why that is, and help find out what our blind spots are preventing it from us. But the vision board is like the vision in the head. So I'm seeing that board and I can see it in my head. I can see myself, experience myself, the touch, the smell, all those things, and combine and resonate on that and consider it done. That's the beginning of creation. Is and see it, I can realize it, and if you can realize it, it is 100% possible to exist, and that's in faith. That's where faith comes in. And yes, I am a Christian too, and but the principalities, whether you're not, and that's fine. It's we do hope you find God. It's important, but the principalities of this world is exactly that. You need to be first in order to start having those results show up that you do want. And you got to learn how to do that in a society that teaches you how to do first, because that doesn't really give you what you really want. We end up doing a lot, making a bunch of doo doo out of doing instead of being.
That's so true. People think of a vision board, or just even creating a vision or goals. They really focus in on the having.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talked about the sports, the bill, the
Billfold
the
in the bedroom.
wallet and the bedroom, like that's
Yeah.
the having, right? It's like, what do I want to
Yeah.
have? Most people focus on the have. And then some people focus on the do, but
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, okay, well, when I have this stuff, I'm going to be happy. Then I'll be happy someday. It's all about the
Ah,
someday, right?
exactly.
So where
Yeah.
we flip it on its head. So the
Yes.
vision board is actually an expression of who do you get to be. So it's not about the stuff. If you're doing it about the stuff, like there's not a wrong way to do a vision board, but I'm telling you is that it won't work as quickly. And it's not going to raise your vibration, because we are wired. It's about who do we get to be? Who do we get to be in service for
Mhm.
others to make the world a better place? And as Christians, I see it as actually an act of worship. I'm going to be as radical as to say that a vision board is an act of worship.
Well, God gave us the passage in John 1. In the beginning there was the Word. The Word was
Mm-hmm.
with God, and the Word is God,
Mm-hmm.
and that's Jesus. And there is nothing created that was created unless it was created by Jesus. Okay, so that means the Word has to exist first before anything occurs. Period. He gave us words. So
Mm-hmm.
now, if you go back to Genesis and the creation in the beginning, which is the beginning of the time construct for us, He created, okay, heaven and earth right after that. And so there is a process to the way God works. It's very orderly. So the word comes first. So when I speak the word, I'm manifesting it in the vision that he gives us. Without the word, I can't create.
Right.
And so
I
it
love that
would,
you brought up order as well. Can I pause
yeah,
you there? Because most
sure.
people create a vision board like a collage. So I always say my vision boards are for people who don't like vision boards because most people don't like them because they're messy. The way that they're done on Pinterest, they're very disorderly. Well, that's not how I um, orchestrate and guide a vision board process because that's not the way that the world was created. God created it with lots of color, adventure. You talked about being a curious person. There's so many opportunities for curiosity and for exploration,
Mhm.
and that gets to be represented on your board. However, I encourage my participants to leave some white space so that the eye has a place to rest, that things aren't competing with one another, so that it
That's,
optimizes the focus of each image. Because otherwise you're replicating chaos, and that is not how God created this world.
I see. It's like taking a breath and rest for a minute.
Yeah, it's for the eye to rest. And so if you think of like a book, if you don't have chapters or margins in a book, your eyes can't focus. So that's why I encourage my participants to, yeah, have some white space, have some margins
Mhm.
around each of the images so that it optimizes that focus.
Mhm.
A lot of people say, I don't have a vision board. I don't really know what that is. And I say, oh no, you look at one every day, probably twice a day. So what do you mean? Well, it's your mirror. So what do you say into that mirror? Talk about the being.
Mhm.
Who do you decide to be every day when you brush your teeth, in the morning when you're looking in that mirror? So truly, the mirror is your first vision board. It's like who is this person? Who do I
Mhm.
decide? So the extension of that is actually having a physical vision board where you're putting the different images on it. But yeah, and then, what do you have as your screensaver? I suspect, somebody that feels like they're just chained to their desk 9 to 5, they probably have a beautiful scene of nature, whether we were talking earlier about the mountains or something like the Caribbean, something like that.
Mhm.
And so that you're inviting those feelings into your life because they aren't there, but you can feel it, you can hear the waves. And so people say, oh, I don't know about a vision board, but in many cases, there's evidence of it already. They just haven't done it more in a structured way that I offer them.
Well, a simple thing would be as you look in the mirror is, okay, I want to be this stage, stick a note on it. And that begins a process of translation from your mind to physicality, and then be able to get feedback from it and reflect on it. Well, is this the way I'm going to be today? But what if you just thought for a second you're a kid? Forget that you're adult because all of us have an inner kid. Let's go back to Christmas Day or Christmas right before Christmas Day. What do you want out of life? Or what do you want? That begins the vision board, wouldn't you think? It just
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
give yourself permission to do that.
Hmm. Actually, you talked about a word before, and I can show you. I have a process that's a mini vision board. It's
Mm-hmm.
focused around a single word, a power word. So this was my
Yes.
one from last year was anticipation, and then
Mm.
this year my word is ease.
Ooh, I like that
And
one.
this was
That's my word,
inspired.
actually.
This is your word.
That's my word for this year. Make it easy because I made it so hard in my life for so
There
long.
you go.
Yeah. So why not? It could be
This
easy.
word was inspired to me by Bob Proctor. So he was in the movie The Secret with Jack Canfield,
Mm.
and he passed away last year. He's Canadian, and his mantra is money flows to me with ease from multiple sources on a continual basis. So it's a great affirmation. And so ease is
Mhm.
the word, but I did this process with kids that were in grade 6. So maybe they're about 11 or 12 years old. And I had a little guy. And normally when I do this exercise with adults, I say, if time, you talked about time being
Mhm.
such a resource, if time and money were no object, what would you do? That's what I normally ask adults, and then get them dreaming and
Mhm.
get things fired up in the right brain. But kids, I got 4 kids. My kids, most of them, only my oldest son cared about money, even as a kid. My other kids could lose money. They didn't even pay attention. Time, forget about it, right? They don't care about time. So I thought, well, what do kids care about? And so I asked the kids, I said, if you had all the help in the world, what would you do to make the world a better place? And the
Mm.
kids got so excited and they had all kinds of ideas. And then I had this little guy, and we were, a half an hour into the workshop, and he says to me, Mrs. Sluice, he said, I can't find my word. I said, well, tell me what was your answer to that exercise that I gave before? And he said, well, you know how there are some diseases that don't have cures? And I said, yes. And he said, well, I think that the answers are in the ocean. I was like, wow, kid. He's 11 or 12 years old. I said,
Visionary.
I'm following you. You are onto something big. It is the
Mhm.
last frontier. It's been unexplored. And there
Mhm.
are so many things in the depths of the ocean we don't know. And I just thought that was just remarkable. And I said to him, wow, it sounds like you're an adventurer or an explorer. He says, I am an explorer. And so imagine having that kind of identity impressed upon you, that you accept to say, I am an explorer at age 11 or 12, and how that kind of identity could change the trajectory of the rest of your life. And so a single word is what he decided to choose. And the teacher told me that the whole class, they loved it. They put them in their lockers, they kept them in their desks all year, and it really gave them like a lighthouse. So that, if you're feeling low, and let's say, there was something that happened, it's like reminding yourself, who do I get to be? So it's going back to that being.
Mhm.
So I'm not that person. No, I'm not going to sink. I'm not going to respond in that way because I'm an explorer. And for me, yeah, it has really been a life preserver in my life.
When you just said I am, God is called the great I am. And then,
Absolutely.
and just for reference, to put it in perspective, is when I asked the great I am who my father is, when I was asked who my father's name is, he says, I am. And then he replies back, well, who are you? And I say, I am William. Do you see the resemblance?
Hmm.
So that's the beginning of all things right there, is to know who you are in
Hmm.
your creation, what your possibilities are. Because you really, every one of us are unique. Every one of us have something to contribute, and all of us something that is to give. And that's the other thing, is the world likes to take. If you start thinking, when you use the word take, I take responsibility, I take this or that or the other in life. These are not things you take off the grocery shelf. Responsibility is being, what is responsibility is to respond in response to. All right. So if I'm responsible for all these bad things, well, you know what? I'm very responsible for creating something beautiful in my life. And I changed my lens and my perspective on being, from being responsible for something that's been done, now being responsible for something that's to be. That's beautiful. And there's just so much power in that.
When you bring up about responsibility, my one of my mentors is Jack Canfield, co-wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul. That I mentioned him earlier in The Secret.
Mhm.
And he gives this equation: E plus R equals O. E is the event, O
Mhm.
is the outcome, and R is our response. We
Mhm.
don't have, most often we don't have control over the E, and we think we want to control the O. But truly, the only thing that we have control over is our responsibility, which is our response. And
Wants
if you
to.
pull that apart, it's our ability to respond. So
Uh-huh.
instead of it feeling like it's imposed upon us, like it's your responsibility, I felt like that growing up. I grew up in a very conservative Christian home. My dad's a preacher. My grandpa's a preacher, so very much preacher's daughter, like always kind of under the eye of the congregation, and feeling like there's a lot of pressure to be a certain way. And I didn't like the idea of responsibility, but the more I balked at that, the less I had control over my own life.
Mhm.
And so, yeah,
The
no,
resistance.
I love that. And something else you said, in my vision board process, I encourage my participants to put a photo of themselves in a prominent place on the board so that it be the center, that it ground it. So you talk about I am. So I am Debbie. And so my board has a photo of me. Because if it doesn't have a photo of me, then everything's just stuff and it's just floating. But this actually helps anchor
Mm,
all
good
of that
point.
and represents the self-image that I now see myself in each of the areas that's also on my board.
So in the beginning and creation, well, that's exactly what you're doing. Is in the beginning, you're creating what you want out of your life, and this manifestation of the planet, the physicality of it, was a manifestation from a creation
Mm-hmm.
and from the word. So when we're doing those vision boards, they're powerful. It sets the tone of your life in a way of being, and it sets your mind in a place to where this is where I want to go with my life.
Right.
It's basically being on a ship and you're at the helm with the steering. And a lot of our lives, we're not at the helm; we're at the back of the boat, and the ship's just kind of going wherever on it, to wherever it goes. So that's great. Now another thing that you have in your business, you actually train people to do this, do you not?
I do, yeah. So what happened was it's okay, it's a rather long story, so I'll try to shorten it. COVID happened,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know. I had given my notice to my board of directors. I was in childcare for 30 plus years. I was a director of a
Ah,
multi-site not-for-profit. I led a team of about 75, predominantly women. And
mm-hmm.
I started this company 2 years prior to that. I've been doing both. I've been doing vision boards on the weekends and my role as a director during the week. And finally, I decided, okay, I'm going to give my notice. I did that in January. March, COVID happened, and I was like, oh man,
Mm-hmm.
I've just jumped out of the plane with no parachute, and
Yes, a lot of us
now
did.
I'm falling
Yeah.
fast. Like
Mm-hmm.
I can't do in-person workshops. What am I going to do? And so I already talked to you about my power word. So I created that workshop and I gave it online, because it actually had been saving me during that whole time when I was leaving my 30-year career. I was cleaning up my offices. I was hiring my successor, and my word that year was generous. And so every time I was not
Mm.
feeling very generous, I was feeling afraid. I was feeling, yeah, just fearful of being unsupported and like, what am I going to do? I just took my word and decided I would be generous. I would be generous with my time. I'd be generous with my kindness. I'd be generous just as a overall as a person. And so from that, I jumped into a high level coaching program. I was like a deer in the headlights. I had no business being in that program because I had not coached before. I was a workshop facilitator, and these people were like seasoned coaches. I looked back at videos and I was like, this sounds like brand new material. And meanwhile, there I am sitting there taking notes furiously, like 'cause I was learning like on a huge learning curve. And it was wonderful, but I got to meet people from all over the world. And what they
Mm.
told me was, Deb, we might be a really great coach, but you are really good at workshops and at vision boards. And we use imagination, we use visioning in our coaching, but none of us know how to do it in a way that's connected to mindset, that's connected to neuroscience, that's connected to what we're doing with coaching. We just kind of think it's a good idea. We just kind of tell our clients, get some magazines, get a board, and put some things that you want on for your life, and that's about it. And your process is so aligned. Do you mind if we use it? And I said, sure, just give me credit. And I just felt like God tapping me on the shoulder and saying,
This
hello,
is
this is
it.
an opportunity for you. I'm sending this to you. And I really resisted. And, that's just the honest. You talked in your introduction about stories. Like I try to talk myself out of it. I researched to try to find someone else who was doing it so that, because there's that imposter thing, right? There's got to be someone who's got more experience, there's got to be someone in the world that's doing this. And there wasn't, not that I could find, and certainly not in the way that I was teaching it. And so, yeah, I started an academy and I hired a course content creator who helped me put together. It's one thing to do it yourself, but to actually translate it and be able to teach it to someone else, that again was a big learning curve.
Mhm.
Created workbooks, a portal, and so forth. And so to date, we have 45 graduates. We're going on 3.5 years from 5 different
Wow.
countries. Yeah, who are now using my proven process plugged into their business. And so what's really beautiful is I have an ongoing support for them that every month. So even though they've graduated 3 years ago, every month I offer a free mastermind for 2 hours live with me. And so my cohorts aren't just rolling over, they're actually growing. So my community, out of the 45, at least half are still very much plugged in, very active into that community. They're part of the Facebook group. They're coming to the calls. And what's so gorgeous for the new graduates is that they get to hear from experienced people who are using the same material. Like, I don't know if you've been in coaching programs, but you only usually are
Mhm.
associated with people at the same level that you're at who are just learning along with you, which is great. But it's so wonderful when you can connect with people that are alumni who are coming back and saying, hey, this is what I've learned. And for me, I love it because I'm like, oh, that's a really interesting group of people that you're giving it to, or, oh, I hadn't thought of you using it in that way. So it's just been really beautiful, the way that it's just all evolved. And as I said, part of my family within the academy is my magazine. So I can now travel and people hire me. So that's the other thing. I'm still doing vision boards myself, but not as a single kind of opportunity. More people are hiring me as the expert to fly me in to do their retreat. And so I'm
Mhm.
the expert to do the vision board components. They might have somebody to do yoga, somebody to do breath work, and then I'm doing the vision board component for a day. Yeah, so I can bring my magazine and then, yeah, and then if I can talk, I also just launched my planner last week. So this has to do with the doing. So this is the
Mhm.
being, the
Mhm.
magazine, the vision board, but this is for goals. So this is the doing. So
Mhm.
this helps people get into the action and get results and stay accountable and stay on track. So this is the extension of the vision board. So you said you wanted to do that. Now you're going to chunk it down. And so each month has its own little mini goal board where you can actually create your own little goals every month and have it written out. So yeah, that's my family of Dare to Declare.
You got the equation right. You got be, do, have, and that's the way that's in the perfect order that it should be, and that's the way God established it uh, for us. And I was just thinking, for example, the value of values, how they're valued, and why does it matter? Is of course to help people realize what their values are in life, and the very core of you is understanding what you value in life and how you align with that and where you're at, and does that align? Because really, if we don't know the values, for one, we're completely going to be in places that we're going to create frustration, resistance, unfulfilled lives, and things like that. And then you're going to get into places that causes remorse, regret, all sorts of things that are negative emotions.
Right.
I mean, it's easy. Well, I call it easy, but it's a discipline in a mind shift. Once you know what your values are, you can start shifting into being what you're meant to be. And then ultimately align it into what God's values are. So you can get the complete vertical to unity and actually be what you're meant to be and live that life and purpose. But, it just gave me a thought just talking to you. This is something essential to that course, because once you get your values, what's your vision? It starts here with
Yeah.
that. And this is the possibility part, people, because you don't know what you don't know is out there until you get onto the playing field. Beginner or not, every great success story starts with a great small step. And that's just called taking a step into your future and being bold and courageous and vulnerable to it, and just shut the back door and say, I'm doing this. I'm going to be this. And that's a mindset shift. But every one of us are capable of doing it. Humanity is the only species on this planet that does not live up to its full potential. We have a choice to on it. So,
Absolutely. We have a responsibility, right? So,
yep.
I mean, going back to scripture, Matthew 25 is like the owner, and he went on a journey and he gave, his servants money, and
Mm-hmm.
one five, one two, and one one. And so the one that had one got scared and buried it. Thought, well, I'll just bury it. Well,
Mm-hmm.
what they were meant to do was to double it, and that's what the other ones did. even with, one with more, one with a little bit less, but even the one with one was supposed to take the money and put it to work. And so that's where I see the vision board is that we've been given this gift. Every one of us. If you're listening to this, if you're watching this, your eyes are open, your ears are open, and you are able to absorb this information. This is a gift, this day right here today. And so what are you doing with this gift? We've been instructed and we have the stewardship responsibility to multiply it. And the way that you do that is you dream big. But the secret as well is to hold your hands loosely for the have. So our responsibility is to be, then it's to do, but the have, we get to leave that up to God. And that's where we hold our hands loosely. And here's the beautiful thing though, is that it is always bigger and better than you expect because it comes from him, because all things are for my good. So that's the beautiful thing about this whole process is that it does give hope. It does, because the vision absolutely does that. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of times too, going back to that point, just to hit on it, a lot of us think exactly very rigidly what it should be for our lives, and that's controlling your outcome. It goes back
Right.
to your equation, and by controlling your outcome, you're really squeezing off the possibilities portion of it.
That's right.
You're like tight, not you, you, whoever that is, it doesn't matter. Okay, you're holding real tight and not letting go. All right. Now, freedom is giving. All right. In order to live, you need to give. It's just the way it works. And opening your hands like that, I'm no longer saying I want to control anything. I want to receive. I'm opening my hands to receive. And that's very powerful because it does leave you open and vulnerable in this position. But there's great power in that because that means you're flexible to receive and you're in gratitude for whatever comes your way. And you trust by doing that as well that God's got you,
That's right.
and He does. So that's very very powerful and just simple ways of being. We get overcomplicated way too many things, and
All of this is simple.
yeah,
All
it
of this
is.
is simple and it's not easy. I have a graduate from my program. He is a cardiologist and he's in Ireland. And I met him in a coaching program and he followed my free workshops for a while. And I said, Robert, why are you stalking me? And he says, well, I'm just really curious, kind of like you, William, like he's just really curious about this. And he said, your process is so simple. And I thought that he was criticizing me. And he said, no,
Mm-hmm.
no, no, you misunderstand. He said, as physicians, we make things so complicated. He said, it's the simplicity of it. That's the beauty of it. And he did take the program. He's certified. And he does vision boards. It's so interesting. He says he has wait lists, and I'm like, I'm sure you do. He said, it's such a head turner. People can't believe that a cardiologist is doing vision boards.
I
But
bet.
yeah, but he has a coaching program that he does for health for his clients because he doesn't want them to use his services as a cardiologist. He wants them to have healthy living. He says, I got wait lists for people. They want to do my vision boards. I said, tell them they're going to take your coaching program first and then dangle the carrot, tell them they can have the vision board at the end with you. So yeah, it's pretty wonderful. But yeah, he definitely validated the idea that it is simple. It's just, I mean, we all know how to be healthier. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
just we got to walk more, move our body more, we got to eat more vegetables, we got, we drink more water, get good sleep. But it's simple, but it's in the daily habits. It's about the persistence, it's about the consistency. That's where the challenge is.
Effective use of time too. That, of course, teaching is intimacy with time,
Right.
and we do have our goals, and we want to accomplish those. But they're goals. But what gets you to the goals is exactly that. And the way you do that is really by making small incremental changes daily
Mm-hmm.
that stack on one another. And you don't see the result at first, but it's like compounding interest. As you go through the year, you'll notice those small changes that you do daily and you just make it intentionally.
Yep.
Make a decision that I'm changing this in my today's world, what I'm doing. And then for too long, in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, it's just like losing weight. You're going to see results in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're going to see your goals. Your goals are what you want to attain out of your life, and that's something to reach for. But what is the way that you're going to be to get to check off on those goals and all those things combined? But they're simple, but they require effort. And the old saying goes, roll up your sleeves and do the work. It's just the way it happens. It's simple, but just do the work. There's no shortcuts. You got to go through it to get to it.
Right.
So yeah. So the other thing I want to talk about is community. You have your 45 people, but you've created such a community that gives inspiration and hope and direction, possibilities on that. I think, no, I don't think, I know that that is highly necessary to be able to connect. Like we were talking about earlier, two things are high importance that God gave us is time and connection. Either one of those goes away, then what's the purpose on it? But the community is for growth. You want to talk about that, about your community a little bit before we close for today's session?
Sure. Yeah. It's like the ripple effect. So when it's like one person and then having that bigger effect, and whether it's, one of my graduates working with people that are in grief, people that are going through divorce,
Mhm.
people that someone's working with youth, there's just so many different applications. And so I'm one person and I had an idea. Like, what if I could make a vision? What if I could make a business out of vision boards? That sounds kind of fun. And then I just started to research and I put together what I knew about child development and around the inner child and around play and how we learn best through play. And I put together my Christian beliefs and some of Jack Canfield's and I created something new. And then, like I said, all of a sudden I discovered other people wanted what I had. And then they became what were liked it so much that they wanted to incorporate it into their business. And now I've created a legacy business. It's just remarkable that, I had a lady, I have a woman who's in South Africa who is a lawyer, she's an advocate, she's a mother, her and her husband both have a church and just a powerhouse lady. And she was doing a retreat. I think it was about 30 women. And South Africa is about 6 hours ahead of where I'm in Ontario,
Mhm.
Canada. And so she was in the middle of her retreat. I woke up at 7 a.m. to help on an email or a message. And I was like, oh no, what's going on? And she says, I get the text. She says, what's the YouTube music that you use during retreats? And I'm just like, what a small world we live in.
Mhm.
She's across the, world offering a vision board, but is going to use the same cello music that I use in her retreat. And I was going to be doing a retreat myself in Canada using the exact same music. So it's so wonderful to have that kind of connection and that kind of shared beauty and appreciation and awe and wonder with my graduates, but then we get to pass it on to our clients as well. And, I have a great, strong network on social media through my email. And, sometimes I giggle a little bit because my emails, my assistant makes them. I always approve them, but she always writes them. And I always tell her, great email, great. But people, respond as though it's me. Like, I mean, I can't individually send out
Mhm.
thousands of emails to my email list, but I love that they think that it's me, my voice. But whenever they do that, I always respond to them personally. But I love that they can see and feel this community that I've really intentionally created. So yeah, thanks for asking about that.
No, definitely. I mean, there's, as you go through life, there's some important things that we all need to know. We need a mentor or coach for guidance because I can tell you, you don't hit a wall lit. You can only go as far as you know. And if you don't have somebody to take you where you want to go, you need to find that person. And that's something that hardcore business or hardcore leadership offers. I'm a conduit to that point. I'm an introduction to find yourself. They take a 90-day journey into the depths of your mind and your heart, who you want to be, and create a pattern, a blueprint of success, and give you a way to become who you were really meant to be. And there's the possibilities and connections like this that are missing elements that, for one thing, I see a lot of is me being a conduit for a lot of resources. Truly, that's who I was meant to be. I'm a connector, and I can see that what your vision boards would impact another lady's business in England, actually, who's centered on the healthcare industry. Since you brought up the cardiologist just right then, a way for her and I and you to tie in together to make a difference in the healthcare industry here in the United States for compassionate healthcare. and a vision for that, to be able to connect and come back to the patient, the doctor, the nurses on a level that works, that's human and not executive driven on it. And same for pharmaceuticals. So that's what I'm saying. When you're out there and you make connections like these people, when you're willing to make a choice to change your life's trajectory and you find out who you want to be, and even if you don't know exactly, that's okay. Because when you're on the field, you don't find it. But you got to be willing to step into the field and be vulnerable and have the courage to do it. But that's all it takes to really change your life. And you can look and see what Debbie is like. She's giggling over what's happened. She didn't. This is the least thing she expected. But a few years later, what do you see? Freedom, peace, joy, contribution, love, excitement, adventure. That's the way we were meant to live.
Absolutely. Yeah. And to be in service. So I feel so humbled that I get to serve in this way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, that's give to live. That's where it goes back to. If you're not given to live, you really need to stop and please analyze why that is. There's nothing wrong, but there's a way of being that should flow in the order it needs to flow, right? And you can fix that. You just got to look. And that's why we all need a mentor or coach to see our blind spots and to help guide us. We're guiding lights. We're coming to the end of the session. Debbie, do you have any final closing comments that you'd like to suggest? I know you got, important thing is how they find you. And I know we'll have a link attached to this so you can find her. But just in case they miss it for whatever reason, you're listening in the car, and just don't have time to write it. But if you would, tell them how to find
sure. So it's my name. So my name is spelled with just an I on the end. So Debbi, Debbi, and then at Debbi, Debbi, and my last name is Sluys, SLUYS.com. Or you can go to declare.com. But that's my website. On that, the front page, there is a calendar there. You can pop in. I'd love to have a chat with you. You can see about the Academy if you're interested in this training certification program that I offer as well. Vision boards, my magazine's there, the planner's there. So yeah, it's an easy to follow website, and it connects to all my social media. I'm on all the social media platforms. I'd love to connect with you there: Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever floats your boat. And to my last words would be, this is really the visioning process, these 3 words. Ask. So ask for what you want. Believe that it's possible. And, for those that are spiritual, we have, a superpower that we know who we're believing in, which is the creator of all the universal laws. And then the last is open to receive. So receive. So ask, believe, and receive. And if you can adopt those 3 words into your life, ask for what you want, believe that it's possible, and be open to receive, you are going to create the most beautiful, best life.
That's awesome. And that's it. Believe in yourself. It's first order. And hardly any of us ever asked for something. A lot of times, if you don't ask, you don't receive.
That's right.
Type of thing. So yeah, Debbie, I really, really appreciate your time today. And it's been a great experience. I've learned a lot myself, even just from the beginning of when we were talking in the background, and then now even going through this interview. It's really been a blessing to me, and I've received that from you, and I'm grateful for it. I'm just thinking of the possibilities of all these people hearing this, if they just take the time, not even take the time, but invest the time, is a better way to put it, into changing their life by starting it at a spot. And this is a great spot to start changing your life in a better direction, into what you'd like to see out of your life. And it starts with vision. That's the very first thing. So go ahead and book an appointment. It's important to your life, and you are the leader of you in your life. So be responsible for you and create something beautiful. So just click the link. You know where to find me, and get in contact with Debbie. God bless y'all, and thank you for attending. See you later.